Welcome to the Golf Mom Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Alesha Nicole. As a mom and a caddy for my junior golfer, I show the heart behind the game, the mindset, the motivation, and the moments that shape junior golfers and their families, both on and off the course. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Coach Bridget Ackley, a nationally recognized leader in junior golf and a true force for growing the game. Based in sunny West Palm Beach, Florida, Coach Bridget serves as the junior golf leader at the park, where she's built one of the most inclusive and inspiring youth programs in the country. She is a PGA Specialized Professional in teaching and coaching, a U.S. Kids Golf Master Coach, and a Golf Digest Best in State Teacher. Most recently, she was also honored as 2024 South Florida PGA Player Development Award recipient, celebrating her dedication to helping golfers of all ages learn, play, and thrive. Through programs like Birdie Basics and PGA Junior League, Coach Bridget focuses on developing athletes first, emphasizing player movement, play, and confidence on and off the course. Her energy and philosophy are all about creating joy, connection, and life lessons that extend far beyond the scorecard. Bridget, I am so happy to have you on the Golf Mom Mindset podcast. I had the privilege of meeting you a couple of years ago, having booked a lesson with you and my son, who was pretty young at the time and very unfocused, and 6 years old. You were very good about reining him in, getting him focused, making golf fun.
Yes.
And so it's such a joy to have you on here because you have so much experience and working with juniors. So I know that you will have a lot to share for our parents and some juniors that will be listening as well.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
So the first question I'd like to start off with is, how did you first fall in love with golf, and what inspired you to pursue the coaching route, and especially with juniors?
So my golf journey started when I was about 3 years old. My dad is a scratch golfer, avid golfer. It started in the backyard swinging a tennis racket and just naturally turned into a golf swing, which got my dad very excited. We belonged to a country club in Brookfield, Wisconsin. So I was fortunate enough to go through their junior programming there and played in the Wisconsin PGA events. Golf was always my number one passion and favorite sport. Played a million different sports growing up, which I advocate for all my juniors. And then as I went into college, still knew that golf was going to be my route that I wanted to get into, and was playing at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater. The summer going into my sophomore year, I was in a terrible car accident, almost lost the use of my left arm, and quite frankly, very, very lucky to be alive.
I'm so
Because
sorry.
it was a blessing and a curse in disguise. But that's what ultimately pushed me into the coaching field, because I started coaching my team, and just always knew, even as a young kid, that something needed to happen around junior golf to make it more fun and approachable to get kids into the game that might not have the opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. And you have done such a good job of making it inclusive for all demographics and kids that, you know, don't necessarily have access to, say, a country club, or even just as you know, the price of golf is expensive. So
Absolutely.
can you touch a little more on that and how you've made it so inclusive and opened up the world of golf to kids who normally would have never had access to that?
So part of being at the park, we've got quite a unique facility here because the park was built to give back to the community. We have a program called The Path, which is connected to our South Florida PGA section office. And within the community center, we have kids that are coming for our Fairway Finders program from multiple different public schools in the West Palm area twice a week for homework help and golf. And that's all free of charge for those kids. Since we opened in 23, we now have 95 kids in that program.
Wow.
And those kids come from difficult backgrounds where they'd never have the opportunity to play golf. They might have been struggling academically, and we've hired 9 part-time teachers from their schools to help get their grades up as well and educate them on the importance of making good food choices, making good choices with who we're around. And then aside from that, I run all of the junior programs here, which is the paid program. It's an hour clinic on Saturdays right now, kind of in a drop-in registration program, but we've got a lot of kids and a lot of repeat customers that come on a weekly basis. So it's quite fun to be part of all of that.
Absolutely. Would you say that this clinic that you run, is it kind of similar to the PGA Junior League?
So I do run the PGA Junior League right now. Finally expanded, and we just had our first match last night. 43 kids in the program. We started out in January of 24 with about 20 kids, so doubled the size and hoping to continue to grow from there. But the clinics that I run on Saturdays, I run through the US Kids Player Pathway program, and also being part of the TPI community. I just went to their TPI Junior Level 3 in California last month. So
What does
I'm
the
taking a lot of
TPA stand for?
Titleist Performance Institute.
Okay, got it.
So I went to that training and already was doing a lot of what we were taught, but I've definitely implemented a significantly more from that learning into it because our priority here at the park is how can we build the athlete first? So I'm putting them through dynamic warm-ups in the clinics for usually 20 minutes before, getting their bodies moving in different ways because we know a lot of schools have cut out PE classes. And we've noticed that that's a massive struggle for when they're trying to just swing a golf club because they don't know their coordination. So I do so many different med ball drills, even when I'm in my private lessons and doing things that they normally wouldn't, that helps us swing a golf club better. And that's how I teach my adults too.
I
Like
love
you have to
that.
think outside the box.
Definitely. Well, and to your point, especially with young kids, they don't really know their body yet and ways that they can move. So I think just showing them that they can twist this way, they can lift something that's heavy
Yeah,
improving their self-esteem, then now they're ready to
absolutely.
pick up a club and hit.
And because if we think of tennis, tennis gets kids involved usually at 3. I would say I'm one of the few in the country that'll start kids as young as 2, especially with my Birdie Basics program. But even with the clinics, if a kid shows up to the clinic, has never touched a golf club, and we're going onto the golf course for that clinic, we could be kicking a ball, we could be hitting a ball off of the tee, using different athletic equipment to put the golf game together, and it's fun.
That's great.
That
I love that.
that inspires them to, "Okay, I'm at a golf course and I don't need to follow all the rules right now. I'm having so much fun," and these kids need to know it's okay to have fun at the golf course as long as we're being respectful while we're
Yeah.
doing it.
I love that. It's like you're teaching them so many life skills with that. And to your point, making it fun so that kids want to continue on. Do you offer clubs for rentals or what do you do for the children that don't have clubs?
We have all of the sizes of US Kids Clubs. So I usually have one of my small den caddies filled with multiple different clubs and have my yardstick out with me all the time so that we're getting them in the proper equipment. Because that's often what we see. Kids are coming in, they've never played before. Mom and dad went to the store, got some golf clubs. They're always too long and too heavy. So I say, this is great. Hold on to this for a little bit until they grow into it. But we've got equipment here that I'm going to have your child use while we're going through this.
That's great. Well, and I love too what you mentioned on the park and the after school programs you have. In a way, it reminds me very much like a boys and girls club where, you can get your homework done, you have the support of the teachers, and then you're learning a great skill too along the way. I mean, honestly, I feel like this is needed in every state.
Absolutely. It's been fun to see other PGA sections come visit the park or even different golf facilities to see not only, the community aspect that we've done, but various different things around the park and how they can kind of steal a little bit of it and bring back to their facilities to, rejuvenate some of these courses and
Yeah.
make it more approachable and accessible.
Absolutely. I'm getting off topic, but because I'm just so fascinated by what you're saying. How is this all funded? I mean, you mentioned hiring the teachers. Do you get some state assistance? Is this donation? Does the park, make enough from charging other things to be able to provide this? How are you able to fund this?
There were 5 investors that initially came together to create the idea of the park. They went out to the local community and some of the people that they know. They raised $56 million, and we do have our own fund for the community side of it. And you know, it's all built on donation right now.
That is absolutely incredible. what do you think makes the junior culture so special at the park?
I think it's kind of a loaded question because you have to have the full buy-in from the golf course. They give me access to the par three and to the championship course for PGA Junior League and lessons and whatnot. It usually gets a little more challenging going into season with the championship course, but if they know it's important and it's part of what we believe in, they'll tell me, okay, we'll block this off for you. Even with the driving range, if I have a larger clinic and I need to block off 10 spots on the range, fully supportive. So another piece is you have to have the right people. And, I'm very fortunate to be here doing what I'm doing what I love on a daily basis. And the community that I've helped build here is super special. It's not just the kids, the parents are involved now. Everybody that comes to the park absolutely loves it. And, you know, they're coming back multiple times a week just because it's such a fun place.
That's so great to hear. And I love hearing about the cooperation. I think that is key because, I've definitely been on courses for lessons with my son. And in a way, you can tell the course is like frustrated that a junior lesson's going on. Or we've had times where we had a little clinic and the sprinklers went on and they just kind of disregarded, like to them, the real golfers were off. And, it
Correct.
didn't matter that the clinic was going on and sprinklers went off on everybody. It's
Right.
and not every course is the same. So it's nice to hear that your course is very cooperative and supportive and that they trust you too, that you're doing what's in best interest and you know how to make it work, to make it fun
Absolutely.
for the kids and a learning experience.
Yeah, and I've been at other facilities where I didn't have the full support and ran into some of those frustrations while I was coaching. And, if I get frustrated, the kids can feel that. And having to completely pivot in a lesson throws everything off. Not only like what I had scheduled, but just the dynamic of how the interactions are going. So very blessed here, especially with the younger ones. I think I'm pretty good at having to pivot very quickly depending on their energy levels.
Mhm.
So that plays a lot into it too. If I need to get some more energy out of them, we're going to stay in the athletic development part for a little longer and then get into the golf from there.
There you go. Yeah, that's a smart move. I might need to take that advice as a parent here. Many parents struggle with balancing competition and fun for their kids in sports. So, what kind of advice do you have for parents, and how do you help parents even build the confidence within their child without so much of the pressure?
Sure. This is something that I talk to a lot of parents about. And my first question is always, does your child want to get into competitions right now? And if the answer is yes, then okay, let's find a healthy balance between taking a break because I don't want to see your kid at the golf course 5 to 6 days a week. That rest period is so important, especially if they're playing other sports too. We can't overload them. And I saw a great thing on Instagram a couple weeks ago where if your kid's 6 years old and they're doing 7 to 8 hours of sports activities, it should not be higher than their age. Because,
Interesting. I like
yeah, I
that.
thought that was really great because even thinking back at my growth in athletics, I was playing 3 sports at one time and I look back and I'm like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
How did my
Right.
parents do that?
Right.
Uh,
Just, the Uber drivers, taxi cab drivers, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It
But
can be a
still,
lot.
even when the kids are young, you have to make it fun. And if they're coming back from the golf course because of frustration or frustrated with how a tournament or practice went, you have to keep that aside. And especially for the parents, if they're the ones that are ultimately the most frustrated, they need to kind of deep dive and see if they have their child's best interest at the forefront or if they're trying to kind of live vicariously through their kid and push this. Especially with golf, the more you push this sport, the kid is not going to be involved with it for too long because once the fun factor, once the enjoyment is not there anymore, then we've kind of lost that junior until maybe once they get to adulthood and see all their friends are on the golf course.
Do you see a lot of different pressure that parents put on their kids or live vicariously through just in your years of coaching? Have you seen a lot of that?
I've seen some relationships with some of my former teammates, their relationships with their parents kind of got muddy waters for a little bit, which, parents always have their kids' best interest most of the time at the forefront. But it is a balancing act. And there has to be that open communication where you're asking your kid, are you having fun? Are we doing all of this because this is what you want to do? And then if the answer is yes to both, okay, what can I help you with moving forward? Do we need to add some different tournaments? Do we need to space out tournaments? Do we need to take a break for a little while? Because that's okay too. But the communication is definitely very key.
Yeah. Well, and I understand the breaks. I've had to do that a lot with my son as his growth and development has happened. A lot of it's his age and maturing, but, and
Sure.
the negative mindset and himself, the driving force of wanting that perfection, which neither myself or his dad, we aren't golfers. And so it's
Hmm.
hard for us to understand the passion he has because we're not, that's not our background, but we're obviously going to support our kid in whatever he wants to do. It's hard to see his heartbreak, when there's that disappointment because we're not putting it on him. So I can only imagine how hard it would be to have a parent. You yourself have that pressure, and then now you have a parent with the pressure of how you perform. And I've seen it myself, in different tournaments, but we've
Hmm.
also had to take times, especially with attitude and behavior. I've had
Sure.
to pull my son from a tournament, mid tournament. It was the hardest thing to do as a mom. And he cried, I
Yeah.
cried. It
Yep.
was rough, and then, he even went to storm to the car, and I made him go tell the director, like, why we're leaving, and we had
Yeah.
to do a, what do you call it, like a walk of shame, back to the clubhouse because he had to walk past his friends, and everyone thought he got hurt. I'm like, "Tell them why we're leaving." He's like, "I have a poor attitude because he, like,
Yeah.
kicked his clubs, his brand new ping clubs, gave him a
Sure.
warning, said, "It happens again, you're out," and he did. I'm like, "Oh, shoot, I actually have to follow through." But again, it was a very emotional day, car ride home. I
Yeah.
was kicking myself because it was Mother's Day. And I'm like,
No.
I'd rather, would like to be at brunch, but here we are. We drove an hour there, an hour home, all for this. But his coach, I called him and he said, best thing you've ever done. Hopefully it'll be the first
100%.
and last time. And I think too, as much as I had hated him having shame and embarrassment, I think his friends seeing it and
Hmm.
saying, I'm leaving because of my poor attitude really helped. And I had
That's
parents come.
such a great learning lesson.
Yeah, I think it really was. And now, when I see it kind of creeping up a little bit that he's getting really angry, I kind of just give him a look and just say, not afraid to do it again, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I'm able to
I
get
wish
that
more parents would
mindset.
do that during
Well, I had a
tournaments.
few parents that actually complimented me and were like, I wanted to do that, but they were afraid to. They weren't sure, what that would look like. So I think
Yeah.
it's hopefully inspired them to say it's okay to do it. And, hopefully by the time they are 12, you would never have to do it.
Right.
Right. But speaking of 12, I've talked to a few other people who said 12 seems to be like a turning point. And I don't know if that has to do with puberty, just their mind, their brain. Well, I guess you go from 9 holes to now 18 holes, and it's just
Hmm.
a whole different level where the practice really comes into play. Because some kids
Yeah.
are just naturally athletic, right? And they're crushing
Correct.
tournaments without a lot of practice. So do you see 12 as kind of a big turning point of kids dropping off or just not wanting to put in the commitment? And if so, what are ways that you try to help inspire them to stay the course?
Absolutely. Yeah. 12 to 13 is statistically the toughest age, no matter what sport, but I think it's larger for golf. Um, because especially if they don't have friends that are involved in it, they're going to start pulling back more, especially if they're not invested. If they have that self appreciation for playing golf, you're going to still have those kids in the programs and whatnot. But again, you can't force them. Always going to be supportive of my juniors if they tell me, hey, this is going to be my last time for a little while because I want to play X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, great, let's go do that. Let's see how it is. And I'm going to support you through that. And I hope you come back and play some golf with me soon because golf, you can play for the rest of your life. We can't play
Absolutely.
football. I wish I could still play football for the
Right.
rest of my life, but
No kidding.
my body's telling me differently.
Yeah.
But the age group, just with, you know, biologically, so many things changing, friends not playing with them anymore, there's so many things that are working against them, but if they have a supportive community around them from the coach, from the facility, their friends, it's going to be a good thing then.
Have you seen kids who have kind of been an underdog, a so-so golfer, to go through puberty and then boom, overnight, they're like crushing all their former
Yeah.
competition?
Yeah, absolutely. Height has a lot to do with that. If you kind of look at some of the junior tournaments, especially in the younger age groups, the kid that's usually is the tallest tends to win more because they can hit the ball a little farther.
Sure.
But the growth spurt phases is a very interesting thing. I have a couple kids that are 12 years old right now, massively changing over the past 6 months. Every time I see a couple of them, I'm like, you've just grown a little more. And I have to have that conversation with them because we're changing. We're not going to hit the golf ball great every single time, but we're going to work on athletic movements to help you continue getting to a better impact position, moving your body a little more efficiently because once their wingspan is taller than they are, they're just lanky and don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's almost like working with the 3-year-olds again, where you're literally like, here's how
Yeah.
to use your body. They're then this new body that they don't know how to really operate.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting process to go through, but teaching them perseverance that this will get better. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to stick to the drills at the course and away from the course that I'm giving you because it is building your body, but you just have to be patient until you grow into whoever you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you work with so many kids at once and you, in a very much in a way, more than just a coach or a teacher, how do you handle when kids are getting out of line, discipline, just that aspect when you're working with so many kids? I'm sure you run into scenarios, and how do you handle that?
So one of the first things that I tell the kids when we're going through the athletic development is we can be great at this, we can suck at this, and we can be okay at this. But fun and safety are the top priorities. And if one of those two starts to get out of line, then we're going to have to sit out. So if I have kids in the safety zone and I see somebody swing a club where they shouldn't be, I'm immediately taking that club and they're sitting out because we all will have a conversation about it. And, not to just have all eyes on that kid that did that, but we have to talk about why these things are happening. So safety is my number one priority. I don't ever want to have a kid get hit with a golf club, get hit with a golf ball. Accidents happen and crazy things happen. But if I don't set the precedence right away when they get there, then everything will start to spiral.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. Well, I think that's very cool that you set the precedence so they kind of know the expectation. So then
Hmm.
hopefully, when they are disciplined, they're not shocked because
Hmm.
you already laid the groundwork and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And
awesome.
they know even when we come back into the studio and stuff and there's more equipment, the kids that have been with me for a while will start kind of coaching the younger ones and say, "Oh, you're getting close to TrackMan. Coach Bridget's going to say something about that." Or just
I
it's
love
pretty
that.
funny to
You have your mini assistants, right? That's awesome.
exactly. It's
That's
funny to
great.
hear the conversation because they know I typically see everything that's happening as I'm walking through, and they'll kind of start talking to themselves like, well, I saw so and so do this. Coach Bridget's watching. Something's going to happen.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, it shows that it's paid off, what you've taught them, and now they're relaying it to the younger ones.
exactly.
So, Coach Bridget, you've earned incredible recognition throughout your career, and
Hmm.
including, from South Florida PGA to Golf Digest. What moments of milestone from your coaching career stand out to you the most?
A big part of the coaching side is the give back for the veterans. I absolutely love doing PGA Hope. Any of the junior programs that I'm doing, that's my love project. That's what gets me excited and fills my emotional tank at the end of the day. So I put everything into my daily coaching schedule. Um, and even when I'm, not feeling the best, I can still flip that switch when I'm in front of the kids and they won't know what's going on. But along awards, like I don't do what I do to be recognized for that. I've been very fortunate to get some pretty cool awards and be recognized for the amazing work that I'm doing with juniors. But there's so many even daily coaching moments, like one kid who doesn't know how to swing a golf club just absolutely ripped it. That that's why I do what I do. It's for the smaller moments, not the larger things that I'm recognized for.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And, your passion from when I met you, and then even just watching what you post on Instagram, your passion really shines through. And I'd actually want to touch on Instagram because
Hmm.
you do sometimes little tidbits and recaps of the funny questions kids will ask you. And you now have the nickname, Hey Coach Bridget. So can you
Yes.
expand a little bit about that? And then just also your journey on Instagram and the following you've obtained.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first got on Instagram, my handle used to be Bridget Ackley Golf. And it started out with still posting junior stuff, kind of getting into adult side. And then when I started at the park, I'm always hearing, Hey, Coach Bridget, hey, Coach Bridget, from the juniors, parents, whoever it is. And then made that switch a couple months ago, which I think is very fitting
Yes.
just because I hear it 5 million times a day. So I think that was a great change on Instagram alone. But what I try to do is not send out the overly done golf tips. I want to show the community the funny side of junior golf and just the most obscene, crazy things that these kids are talking to me about or just sharing. Like, it's hilarious. A lot of my friends that are in the junior golf space, they'll send me a text message just absolutely cracking up and like tell me what some of their kids have been saying too. And I'm like, everybody's loving it.
Yeah, I am too. I'm laughing at when you post about it, and I chuckle because it's like I've heard my own kids say the same thing. And just when you're around kids, you're like, where do they come up with this stuff? And the trends, the whole 6, 7, whatever that
My
means.
gosh.
It's
Yes.
a whole thing, and it's just yeah, it's funny. So it's definitely an enjoyable thing, and I think it's led to why you have such a big following too.
Yeah, absolutely. The golf instruction videos are great, but I kind of had to find my niche and it's always been junior golf. So bringing back just the crazy things that happen is worked out very well for me and led to some cool things happening.
I love that. I think finding your niche is so important. And I try to remind myself that because here I am not knowing a whole lot about golf and I have a golf podcast, so I am probably the least likely person to have that. But, you have to find a niche and what works for you. And I'm not trying to
Absolutely.
paint myself as any expert. I'm talking to the experts, and trying to showcase that. So I try to remind myself because it can be intimidating with Instagram because there's so much out there and people who put so many wonderful tips, as you say, or just have this
Yeah,
huge following. And I think if you just like stay in your lane, don't worry about the noise, and everyone's
right.
going to have their specialty. That's just how you
Absolutely.
can grow and also just be authentic, right?
Yes,
To
absolutely.
who you
Yeah,
are.
I have to be who I am
Exactly.
and just showcase that on the daily basis.
Yeah. Well, like I said, having met you in person and what you put online, you are what you put online. Like there's no persona, like, some people kind of are different online,
Right.
but you are exactly who you are. And the
Well,
passion
thank
shows
you.
through Instagram, and I love it.
Thank you.
As you know, golf is such a mental game. How do you help
Mhm.
your students, especially the kiddos, manage their frustration yet stay resilient when things get tough?
We usually create some really challenging situations on the golf course to bring out that emotion in them. And then we kind of talk through the process because some of the shots I would never want to hit myself, but it could happen. And we have to figure out a healthy balance to live in that frustrated moment because it's not going to be a great shot out of whatever situation that I'm building and then kind of talk through the process of how can we forget about that because it's happened. We can't change the outcome of what just happened. Give ourselves maybe 30 seconds, and then how can we regroup and focus on the next shot? Because we all know as golfers, the longer we hold on to that bad shot or that bad hole, it's going to affect the rest of your golf game. And I don't know, kind of internally for me, I think it was more my mom just because she wasn't a golfer either, and she'll still come out and watch me play in tournaments, but she'll tell me, she's like, "I'm watching you, and I know you've hit a good shot, or I know you hit a bad shot. Nobody can tell if you're upset about this." It was like at the end of the day, and maybe it's because of the adversity I've gone through with my car accident and not being able to play for almost 2 years. We're playing a game at the end of the day. This is not going to be life or death. There's going to be some frustration through this, but we can always do better. We
Hmm.
can learn from whatever happened and then take something good out of whatever the outcome was.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And it going back to the hard time in your life with your car accident,
Hmm.
did that lead, especially when you couldn't play and it was a love that you had, was there a time where it just brought you down? And how did you pull yourself out of that mental state of the negativity of like, this isn't the end of my life's not over and to be grateful that you were alive. How did you pull yourself out of that horrible funk mentally, for those 2 years that you were just down for the count?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate to start coaching my sister's high school team for the high school that I went to as well, and then still be actively involved in my college team. Because I think if I didn't have that opportunity to get into coaching, I don't know what would have happened because that was still my excitement every single day going to practice. And I couldn't move my left hand for almost 2 years because of nerve damage, and they weren't sure if it was going to regrow. So my hand literally just hung here, and I couldn't move it. But when I was at the practices, I found some pieces of harder plastic that I would like kind of stick to my hand and kind of duct tape it around just to kind of hit some pitch shots and stuff and figure out how I could still play golf, even though I know it's not going to be great right now, but I can still actively do what I do. And I kind of had a mental moment the sophomore year of college where I was like, if I don't play golf for the rest of my life, I'm going to be okay, but I still have a coaching opportunity here
Yeah.
and still be able to do what I love. And just kind of that self drive that I have, that completely flipped. And, so many awesome things have happened since that car accident. So a lot of great things came out of that. And, self discovery and a lot of growth moments for myself, which probably play into how I am a coach today.
Absolutely. Well, your mindset, it really is everything. And I'm
Hmm.
I'm I'm sure that kids learn a lot from you just because of the mindset you have in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the parents that are listening, what is the best way that they can help their child's development without overstepping? And I guess one example would be, and I'll use myself. I think sometimes the hardest part about being a caddy is you're hovering, right? So giving them that, how do you give your kids space when you're literally right over them as they're
Right.
golfing? And, one thing we've recently done, and it's mostly because I myself am recovering from back surgery and
Hmm.
have just not been a great caddy. So a couple of my son's tournaments, like the one this last weekend, we hired a caddy
Hmm.
and he ends up scoring better with the caddy and listening better. And it's like, it's kind of a great, like, cause I'm hanging back and I'm observing. Similar thing happened when I had him join the PGA Junior League. The very first time he's like kept looking back at me, like, what do I do, mom? Help me. And
Right.
I'm not allowed to be involved, so he had to look to his teammates, but it was such a beautiful thing to witness. But there's many times that I feel like I'm overstepping. I mean, I drive him to his lessons and I hang out there because it's not really enough time to leave. So I'm just always there. And I guess back to my question is, how do you help parents make sure they're not hovering too much, overstepping, and kind of getting in the way?
Yeah. I've had to kind of interject if some of my juniors say, this is what's happening when I'm practicing. It's not fun. I'm being criticized for every single shot I'm hitting. Why am I doing this? Why did you do that wrong? So I'll have the conversation with the parents and say, this is the toughest sport we can ever play. We have to give your kids some grace right now. They absolutely love this. But if this behavior continues from the parent side, they're not going to love it anymore. They're not going to play. And I've seen that so many times. Even with my junior league yesterday during my announcements, a very important piece that I'll say to the parents is it's okay for your child to fail right now. Let your child make their decisions for themselves. You can help guide them, but I do not want to see you helping them set up to every single shot. If they choose their pitching wedge and it should have been a hybrid shot, let them take that so they can start learning how different golf clubs go different yardages. But we can't be hand holding them the entire time. And it's the toughest conversation to have with the parents at the end of the day. Because again, the parents want the best for their kids. If we don't give them the freedom to explore, make the mistakes, and figure all this out, they're going to be looking back to the parents every single time when they're older at these tournaments. Or if they hit a bad shot, that quick glance over, oh my gosh, did mom or dad see that? They're going to freak out on me later. That's not what this is about. You should be out there enjoying the time with your child, telling them that this has been the best day ever because you got to watch them do what they love. And I I think a lot of coaches are afraid to have that conversation because they don't want to lose that person as their student. But if the behavior continues and I have to ultimately say, absolutely love your kid, but I can't work with them because this situation is not changing, then unfortunately I have to do that
Yeah,
because it's not part of the culture that I'm trying to build.
sure. And maybe, a wake up call for them to nip it in the bud now before, like you say, they get older and
Yeah,
become harder. One of the coaches I interviewed, he's a former college coach, and we talked a little bit about the recruiting process. And he said that something that they really look at is when kids, are, how high school, and they're looking back at what mom and dad are thinking. And to them, they're like, they really make note of that because they're like, at this age, they shouldn't be even
correct.
caring how mom and dad are going to react to it. So I thought that was a
Absolutely.
really interesting perspective. And again, with an 8-year-old, I'm like, I better get this in check now so that by
Yeah,
the time he's older, he forgets that I'm even there, right? He's just in his own world
absolutely.
and focused and dialed in.
Yeah. I mean, the college coaches are so dialed into that because depending on how the family dynamic is, and if it's not great, then it's going to impact their team culture. And you don't want to have to deal with that at such a high level.
Yeah.
But if I can have that conversation early on and everything starts to improve, then we're getting back on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about some of the drills that you do with the kids and the athletic stuff. So what is a particular drill that stands out that is something that is just a win every time? Do you have a specific drill that you would recommend other coaches or parents do?
Yeah, I start every private lesson out on a weight shift board, and we have either a 4 or 5 pound med ball, or I've got some air flyers for the younger ones. And we're working on literally every part of the golf swing. We're working extension, rotation, weight shift, so many different pieces. And even for adults, that's my go to drill because you're building the athlete. We don't have a golf club in our hands and now they can feel themselves doing different movements by the, open-ended questions that I'm asking them about, you feel your right shoulder down, or did you toss that ball and do your shoulders feel parallel to the ground? So I'll have a 4-year-old answering those questions and figuring out, oh, okay, I can make the ball do this if I just kind of go like this a little more. And if I go too high, it's going to change how high or how low that ball is going to go. So it's so fun to see the learning process through something as simple as a throwing drill.
Do you have a bigger vision? I know you mentioned wanting to help others try to create similar programs and stuff, but what do you see for like the next 10 years for yourself as a coach and even your role at the park?
I'm often asked that question, and I think I'm okay where I'm at right now. So I really struggle to see where the next step is, especially since I have so much freedom and support at this facility. Again, didn't have that at some previous facilities. And it's so encouraging. And, it's in a relaxed environment to know that I don't have to step on eggshells if I need to block something off for my juniors or my adults. I obviously want to build the best junior program that I can in the area. And I think I'm on the right track right now, especially with the growth with PGA Junior League. I got very emotional yesterday at our first match, just telling everyone how exciting this is. And the parents are so excited as well. I mean, we did have a pace of play issue with our 9-hole course, but you know, aside from that, the parents were so encouraging of what we're building here. And that has been the coolest thing to see
Sure.
because, when you were in town, we were going through the issues with the driving range, and the range was shut down for 9 months.
Yeah.
And we had to get creative with how we were going to help grow golf here and watch that, almost 3 years now. It's been a very fun process to be part of, and we've got a great team here at the park. And if I move on, it has to be a pretty special spot that has similar freedoms and encourages junior golf and is fully supportive of the things that we have here, because I personally think it would be challenging if I'm getting into a bigger role and there are so many stipulations and hoops that I have to go through, and I'm
Right.
like, well,
It would
I
be
don't know
hard
what to do with this.
to do what you do and to make, the magic happen, right? So part of your
Absolutely.
point, the magic that you make happen on the course is because of the relationship with the park and the freedom and flexibility they give you. So I get that.
100%. Yeah, it's such a special thing, and just very grateful to be here and be part of the team and see what we can build moving
Awesome.
forward.
I love it.
No, I'm just very appreciative to be part of this today, and super happy. We've met before. I've worked with your son, and now to be part of the podcast, that's a pretty cool full circle moment right now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bridget, how can everyone, or hey, Coach Bridget, should I say, how can everyone find you? Which, of course, we'll have in our show notes, but please let everyone know how they can find you, how they can work with you, and certainly see all your fun moments on the course with kiddos that you post weekly.
Absolutely. On Instagram and Facebook, you can find me at Hey Coach Bridget. I do have a personal website, bridgetackley.golf.com. If you're looking to book a lesson, you can go to theparkwestpalm.com, hit book a lesson, and I'm happy to connect.
And from firsthand experience, I just happened to be in town and wanted to check out the park and have my son do a lesson. So even though we were visiting and it was, short lived, I wish we could continue on with you. It was definitely worth it. And so anyone who's in town for other tournaments and stuff, it would be worth going to see Bridget for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you so much, Bridget. And for all of the listeners out there, if you like this episode, please share it with another parent. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and we will see you in the next episode.